Knowing the rule changes nothing. This is the complete system for actually delivering 7 hours, 11 touch points, and 4 platforms on purpose without it taking up all your time. If you've heard of the 7-11-4 rule, you know the headline. A buyer needs roughly 7 hours of engagement across 11 touch points on 4 different platforms before they trust you enough to buy. It's a powerful idea, and here's the uncomfortable part. Knowing it changes absolutely nothing. Because the moment you understand the rule, you run straight into a wall. Okay, 7 hours, 11 touch points, 4 platforms. How on earth do I actually deliver that? How do I generate 7 hours of content with a single buyer without creating content every waking hour? How do I hit 11 touch points without launching 11 separate campaigns? How am I supposed to show up on 4 platforms when I can barely show up on one? That's the wall where almost everybody gives up. And it's exactly what this video is going to knock down. If you run a business, if you're a founder, or if you sell professional services, this is the video that turns the rule into something you can actually run. In this video, I'm going to give you a complete practical system for delivering the 7-11-4 rule on purpose, not by working harder, by building a connected engine where one piece of work generates the hours, multiplies the touch points, and spreads across all the platforms automatically. I've spent 27 years in B2B marketing building exactly this kind of engine for businesses. What you're about to see is not an idea on a whiteboard. It's exactly how to get things done. Let me show you how it actually works. Before I show you the system, you need to understand why most businesses fail to hit these numbers. The reason is not what you think. It's not laziness or lack of effort. Plenty of businesses work incredibly hard at marketing and still never come close to the 7 hours, 11 touch points, and 4 platforms. The problem is because of the structure that they have in place. The structure problem is a disconnection. Most businesses do marketing as a series of separate one-off efforts. They post something on social this week, they run an ad next month, they send an occasional email, they have a website sitting somewhere. Every one of these things is disconnected from the other. None of them feed off each other. None of them builds on the others. So none of the attention adds up. Picture it like trying to fill a bathtub with a drain wide open. You pour in effort, a post here, an ad there, but because nothing connects, the attention drains away as fast as you could create it. The buyer gets a few scattered minutes with you, but then forgets you. Because there is no system to keep delivering touch points over time, you never get anywhere near the 7 accumulated hours because every effort starts from 0. That's the difference between draining the tub and plugging the drain. Now contrast this with how the numbers are supposed to be hit. Not through more disconnected effort, through a connected system. One where every piece of content feeds off the next, where one piece of work multiplies into many touch points, where a buyer who engages once gets captured and kept. So the engagement can build over weeks and months. The goal of this video, it's not to get you to do more, it's to get you to connect with what you already do. So the engagement stops draining away and starts building towards that trust threshold. That connected system has a name, the conversion ecosystem. And I'm going to walk you through how it delivers each of the 3 numbers. Let's start with the first number, the 7 hours. 7 hours is a lot, and there's one rule that decides whether you ever get close. Hours come from depth, not from a pile of shallow content. You cannot reach 7 hours by posting 100 things that get a 3-second glance. You reach it by creating substantial content that people actually spend real time with. So step 1 of implementing the 7-11-4 rule is to build depth. What does depth mean? Long form content. The in-depth video that runs for 15 to 20 minutes. The thorough article that actually answers a question that the buyer was stuck on. The podcast episode that they listen all the way through. The detailed guide. These are the formats that build minutes and hours of attention per piece because they give the buyer something that's worth their time. Long-form content compresses trust. Here's a principle worth really understanding. When a buyer spends 20 focused minutes with a genuinely valuable piece of your thinking, they come out of the other side feeling like they know you, like they've seen your expertise, like they could trust you. That single piece might build more trust than dozens of shallow touches because the buyer went deep with you uninterrupted. Depth is the fastest path to the hours. So your first move is to commit to consistently producing substantial, genuinely useful long-form content. Not constantly, consistently. One real piece of depth on a regular rhythm beats a flood of shallow posts. This depth content becomes the core of your entire system, the thing that everything else gets built from. Get this right, and the hours start to build up. Skip it, and you get stuck in the land of seconds, never getting near the threshold. And here's the bonus. That deep content is not just building the 7 hours. As you'll see in a moment, it's also the raw material for the 11 touch points and the 4 platforms. So when you invest in depth, you're not just feeding one of the 3 numbers, you're actually creating the source that feeds all 3. That is why depth comes first. It's the foundation on which the rest of the system is built. Now that we've built the hours, let's see how one deep piece becomes 11 connected touch points. Now the 11 touch points. This is where most people panic because 11 touch points sounds like 11 separate things to create, and that feels impossible. Here's a secret that not only makes it possible, but almost easy. You don't create 11 separate things, you take one deep piece that you already made and multiply it into many touch points. This is the heart of the system. Here's how it works. You take one long form piece and you break it down into smaller pieces. A 20-minute video contains a dozen distinct ideas. Each idea can become a short clip, a written post, an email segment, a quote, or a graphic. Suddenly, that one piece of work has produced 8, 10, or 12 smaller touch points. Each one is a separate moment where a buyer can meet you, all drawn from a single piece of depth that you already created. There's a name for this exact process. I call it the decomposition system, breaking one substantial piece down into the smallest useful parts, then reshaping and distributing each one to where it fits. It's the engine behind every touch point that you're about to create. You don't have to create 11 separate things. You just got to take one deep piece that you already made and multiply it into many touch points. This is the difference between working harder and working connected. The business that tries to hit 11 touch points by inventing 11 separate ideas gets burnt out fast. The business that creates one deep piece and multiplies it into 11 connected touch points does a fraction of the work and gets a better result because all 11 touch points reinforce the same core message. And that reinforcement is the key part because the 11 touch points came from the same source. They all point back to the same idea, the same point of view, the same theme. So when a buyer meets touch point 3, it reminds them of touch point 1. The repetition is connected, which means it builds familiarity instead of just scattered noise. 11 connected touch points feels like getting to know someone. 11 random ones feels like meeting 11 strangers. Think of it as a flywheel. You put the effort in once to create the deep piece, then the effort spins off into many touch points. As you keep adding deep pieces over time, the touch point adds up. Your content library grows, and the whole thing builds momentum. Each new deep piece does not start from zero. It joins a system that was already spinning, already producing touch points, already building familiarity. One piece of depth becomes a cluster of touch points. Do that consistently, and the 11 touch point target stops being a mountain you need to climb. It becomes a natural byproduct of how your content engine runs. Now that you've multiplied the content, the next step is putting those touch points where your buyers actually spend their attention. Now the 4 platforms. Again, the instinct is to panic because being active on 4 platforms sounds like 4 times the work. And again, the system solves it because you're not creating new form content for each platform. You're spreading the touch points that you already made across your 4 platforms. The work is already done. Now you just need to place it. Here's the flow. You made your deep piece of content. You decomposed it into many touch points. Now you take those touch points and spread them across the 4 platforms where your buyers spend attention. Some go on social, some go to your email. The deep piece itself lives on your website as a video. Short clips go wherever short videos perform. The same body of work spread out now appears across 4 platforms, meeting buyers wherever they are. One source, 4 platforms, the appearance of being everywhere. This is what creates the powerful illusion of being everywhere. A buyer sees your clips on social, then they get your email, they find your full video, then they land on your site through a search. To them, you seem like you're everywhere they look. You feel established, legitimate, permanent, like a real authority in your space, but it all traces back to the same connected engine. Which 4 platforms should you pick? The 4 where your specific buyers actually spend their attention. For most professional purchases, a strong combination is your website with search, email, one major social platform, and a video platform such as YouTube. But the principle matters more than the exact list. Pick the 4 places your buyers genuinely are and be consistently present in all of them by putting your content there. Don't pick a platform because they're trendy. Pick the ones because your buyers live there. One caution: spreading across 4 platforms doesn't mean copying and pasting the same thing everywhere with no thought. The smartest move is to lightly adapt each touchpoint to fit the platform it's going on, so it feels more native to that platform rather than being recycled. But the core content, the thinking, the message, they all come from your one deep source. You're adapting how to distribute it. You're not reinventing the content itself. That's what keeps 4 platforms sustainable. Adapt the distribution, not the thinking. So the third step of implementation is taking your multiplied touch points and deliberately spreading them across 4 platforms where your buyers live, lightly adapting each to its platform. This is how you hit the 4 platform target without quadrupling your workload, and how you build the established everywhere presence that makes buyers trust you. There's still one critical piece missing. Without it, everything that you've built so far leaks away. Let's fix that next. Now, here's the one piece almost everybody misses, and without it, the whole thing falls apart. You can create depth, multiple touch points, and spread across platforms and still never hit the 7 hours with a single buyer. Why? Because if you have no way of bringing the buyer back, every new visitor starts the clock at 0 and vanishes. You keep building towards 7 hours with people who disappear after a few minutes. Every new visitor starts the clock at 0. The fix is capture. You need a way to turn an anonymous visitor into a known contact so you can reach them again on purpose. Usually, that means getting their email address in exchange for something genuinely valuable, a useful resource, a guide, a reason worth giving up their email address. Once you have captured them, you can keep sending them touch points on purpose instead of hoping that they'll wander their way back. This trade, a real value for an email address, is what I call an impact lead magnet, and it's a single piece of the system that most businesses skip. This is what lets engagement actually build towards the 7 hours. A captured buyer can receive touch point after touch point, week after week, slowly climbing from a few minutes towards 7 full hours of trust building time. Without capture, you're filling the tub with a drain open. With capture, you finally plug the drain, and the attention starts to add up the way the rule needs it to. With capture, you finally plug the drain. In practice, every piece of your content should point to the capture point. Your deep videos, your articles, your social touch points, all of them should gently lead the buyer towards a reason to give you their email and step into a relationship that you control. This one move, adding a capture mechanism, is often the difference between a business that gets a lot of attention and converts none of it, and one that steadily builds trust until buyers are ready. And for most buyers who engage but are not ready yet, which is most of them, capture lets you keep them in your world. You loop them back, still delivering value and touch points until the moment arrives. That patient, ongoing presence is how you carry a buyer all the way across the 7-hour threshold, even if it takes months. Build a capture mechanism and make every piece of content point towards it, so engagement builds rather than drains. Now you have all the pieces. Let's assemble them into one connected engine. Let's assemble the whole thing, because seeing it as a one connected engine is what makes it click. Step 1. You create substantial depth, the long-form content that generates the hours. Step 2. You multiply each deep piece into many connected touch points. Step 3. You spread those touch points across 4 platforms where your buyers live. Step 4. You capture engaged buyers into a relationship that you own, so the engagement builds over time, looping back everyone who's not ready yet. Watch how the four steps feed each other. The depth creates the hours and also the raw material for the touch points. The touch points create the repetition and also the content to distribute. The distribution creates a four platform breadth and also drives buyers towards the capture. The capture lets all of that attention build over time towards the threshold. It's not four separate jobs, it's a single connected engine in which each part powers the next. This is what I call the content flywheel engine. And once it's turning, it keeps turning under its own momentum. And there's compounding magic here too. Once the engine is running, it gets easier and more powerful over time. Not harder. Your library of deep content grows. Your touch points add up. Your presence across the four platforms deepens. Your captured audience expands. Each new deep piece joins a system that's already spitting, already producing touch points, already building familiarity with a growing audience. A year in, you're not working harder than you started. You're working the same, but the engine is throwing off far more engagement because it's compounding. The work compounds rather than drains away. This is why the system beats brute force every time. The business trying to hit the 7-Eleven 4 through sheer effort hits a ceiling fast and burns out. The business running this connected engine keeps growing because the work compounds rather than drains away. The same effort, but completely different outcome, simply because one's connected and the other one isn't. So when someone asks how you could possibly deliver 7 hours, 11 touch points on 4 platforms, the answer is this. You don't do it by hand, piece by piece. You build an engine that produces a natural byproduct of its operation. Create depth, multiply it, distribute it, capture and build. That's the implementation. Now that you understand the engine, let me show you the simplest way to begin building it over the next 90 days. Theory is good, but let me give you a concrete way to start, because a system can sound abstract until you see the path. Here is roughly how I would begin if I were starting from nothing over about 90 days. The first 30 days focus entirely on depth and one platform. Commit to creating one substantial piece of content on a consistent rhythm. Say one solid long form piece of content and one capture mechanism. One genuinely valuable resource people will give their email address for. Don't worry about all 4 platforms yet. Just build the habit of producing depth and start capturing people it attracts. You're laying out the foundation, the hours engine, and the plug for the drain. Don't worry about all platforms yet. Just build the foundation first. In the second 30 days, add multiplication and a second and third platform. Now take each deep piece you're making and start breaking it into touch points. Spread those touch points across 2 or 3 platforms where your buyers are. You're not adding more deep work. You're getting more mileage out of the deep work you're already doing. By the end of this stretch, one piece of content is producing many touch points across several platforms, and your captured audience is growing. In the final 30 days, reach your 4th platform and tighten the loop. Add your 4th platform and build out the follow-up that keeps sending touch points to your captured audience over time. Loop back to the people who are not ready, and now the full engine is turning. Depth generating hours, multiplication generating touch points, and distribution covering 4 platforms. Capture and follow up and let it build. From here, you're not building anymore, you're running and refining. 90 days will not make you famous, and it will not instantly carry every buyer over the threshold. What it will do is build the engine, so from that point forward, you're building trust on purpose instead of by accident. Every buyer who enters your world now has a path to their 7 hours, 11 touch points, and 4 platforms, delivered by a system rather than your willpower. And that's the whole goal. Now, let me leave you with the mindset that makes the entire system work. I want to close the teaching with the mindset shift that makes this actually stick, because the mechanics only work if you hold the right mental model. Here's the shift. Stop thinking in campaigns and start thinking in systems. A campaign is something you do that starts and ends, leaving nothing behind. A system is something that you build that keeps on running and compounding. 7-Eleven 4 is unachievable with campaigns, and it's natural with systems. Stop thinking in campaigns and start thinking in systems. The second part of the mindset is patience with the threshold. 7 hours, 11 touch points, 4 platforms. All this takes time to build with any given buyer. You're not going to meet someone and cross that threshold in the same day. You're planting and tending, knowing the engagement adds up over the weeks and months. And that buyer crosses the threshold on their own timeline, not yours. The businesses that win are the ones that are patient enough to let the system do its work. And the third part is to measure the right thing. Stop measuring vanity metrics like raw impressions or follower counts. They tell you nothing about trust. Start asking the real question. Is my system building genuine attention with buyers over time, across multiple platforms, in a way that moves them towards the threshold? If the answer is yes, then you're winning, even if the vanity metrics look modest. If the answer is no, all of the impressions in the world are not going to save you. Measure the buildup of trust, not the size of the audience. Hold these three together, think in systems, be patient with the threshold, and measure the buildup of trust. And the 7-11-4 rule turns an intimidating statistic into a clear, achievable target that your engine builds over time. Here's the whole implementation in one breath. The 7-11-4 rule tells you the trust threshold: 7 hours, 11 touch points, 4 platforms. You cannot hit this through a disconnected one-off effort because the attention drains faster than you could create it. You hit it by building a connected engine. Create depth to generate hours, multiply each deep piece into multiple touch points, and spread those touch points across 4 platforms. Capture engaged buyers so the engagement builds over time. Knowing the rule is nothing. Building the system that hits it is everything. Build that engine, and the 7-11-4 stops being a statistic you admire. It becomes an outcome you produce on purpose, and the system quietly decides who wins in your market. This idea is part of a larger system called the conversion ecosystem. The book explaining the core framework is available on Amazon. If this video gave you a clear understanding of how trust is actually built, the next video will give you more information on how to implement the conversion ecosystem inside your own business. Remember, the most visible, the most valuable, the most trusted business in your market wins.